How's it going, guys? I'm Shifty Cow, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Tom Clancy's The Division beta and just kind of some first impressions, what I personally think, and just kind of some ideas that I have for the future of the game, and also, of course, whether or not you should try and pre-order or just buy this game in general. So for this video, we're going to split it into two parts, good and bad, so we're just going to start off with the good, and let's just hop right into it. So first of all, the graphics. This is something that I was really worried about just because, you know, E3 trailers and all the hype around this game, people tend to think that it's going to look way better than it ends up actually looking, and I have to say, the graphics are actually pretty impressive. For having such a large open world game, it's pretty impressive to see the amount of detail and overall just graphical fidelity that this game has, so that's definitely a plus. They definitely did not skimp on how much detail they're putting on the ground. It doesn't look as good as the trailers, obviously, but it's definitely close, and there's a lot of things to kind of explore, there's things to look around at, and it's really just a very nice looking game. So moving on to the map, it feels pretty big. It definitely doesn't feel like the type of map that you could just roam around for hours upon end, and it's definitely not the largest map, but it is incredibly detailed to the point where I think that's much better than having just a giant map if it's super barren and really just doesn't matter. So there's a lot of areas to explore. You have the dark zone, obviously, you have underground areas, there's like a subway, they have, you know, different parking structures, different buildings you can explore, you can get on rooftops, and really it's just very detailed, and I really have been enjoying the map. And probably one of my favorite things about this game so far is the loading times between different zones. So they're actually pretty clever with how they did this. So rather than having your traditional loading time where you just go up, hit a button, and it starts loading and then puts you in the next area, like your headquarters or maybe the dark zone or whatever you're doing, instead of that, there's no loading times. Other than like the initial boot of the game, say I wanted to go from the outside world into my headquarters, what I'd have it do is I'd walk in, it would start like disarming me, or I'd just like put my gun on my back and I'd be walking because it's like a slower animation, and it takes maybe 3 or 4 seconds to actually get in the building, and by the time I've actually walked into the building, it's finished loading all that and it's already done. So that's something that's really cool, and I'm really happy to see people getting very clever with how they're loading in their map. Another thing that I thought was really cool is how seamless it is to hop into servers, because when I first started playing, I just like got dropped off by a helicopter, didn't really know what was going on, and I was in a server. I didn't know I was in a server, but I started walking around and I noticed name tags that looked like gamer tags. I'm like, wait a minute, we're in the game online, and I didn't even realize because it's that seamless. So you can go do missions with people, you can go buy things, you can go kill people in the dark zone. It's really just a cool experience to see how seamless and immersive this game is. So that's definitely a plus. And finally, for the map, it is something that seems like it could be pretty easily upgraded or expanded with a DLC. So say if they had a blocked off area that was just kind of the edge of the map, they could just add in like a couple entrances and that place would now be open. Or they could have like an island. They could really do a lot of different things for DLC. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to. Moving on to the atmosphere and overall just the immersion of this game, I have to say that once again, I'm pretty impressed with this. The sound design is pretty nice. It's nothing too insane, but it is pretty good for 3D audio. You can hear gunshots and explosions really well, and also just AI talking and jibber jabbering. They have animals in that kind of run around the world. You've got rats and crows and birds. Obviously, those are really easy ways to spread disease. Also, you've got dogs running around, and any of these animals you can shoot. Like, I shot a couple crows and rats, and I think I got points for that. I accidentally shot a dog. I really didn't know what to do. I just kind of panicked and turned off my computer. But it's definitely something that's really cool. And then on top of that, they have some really nice effects in the world. So graphics, the snow, there's falling snow everywhere. It's really just a nice game. I think it's very well polished in terms of the graphics. There are some animations that are kind of, you know, stuttery or really weird with the AI, but we'll get to that later. And finally, I thought the concept for how the HUD is displayed is really cool. It's kind of like that augmented reality style where everything moves with you, and it feels like something that your character actually sees too, and it's not just kind of separate from gamer to character, I guess. So kind of just a weird thought, but something I really enjoyed, and it's fully customizable. So if you don't want certain things showing up, you think it's just too cluttered, you can just get rid of that, and I absolutely love that. So the last good thing I wanted to talk about with The Division is the amount of customization that it looks like they're going to have. Obviously this is a beta and I haven't gotten to play extensively, but it seems like there's going to be a pretty decent amount of customization when it comes to your character's face, their clothes, how they look, guns, different abilities, attachments, how you set up your headquarters. It really just seems like there's a lot to do in this game, and hopefully there is, but there's just so many different things you can change up in this game, and that's really just going to add to the overall experience. So moving on to the bad things of this game, game. We had to get to this part of this video eventually, but the first thing is it feels a little bit clunky in terms of controls, how the cover system works, and just kind of like overall movement feels a little bit sluggish and clunky. It feels like you kind of wait a second before you actually do your movement, and when you're kind of clung, or I guess attached to whatever cover you're behind, it feels kind of slow when you try and go to the next piece, especially when it's already selected. So that's something that's probably going to be relatively easy to iron out. I'm not a developer, so I really know nothing about this, but it does feel a little bit sluggish, and it can be kind of annoying at times when you're in a firefight and you're trying to be very agile. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is content. Like I said, it felt like there was a lot of customization, but I've only put in 2 hours, and I'm not quite sure how all the missions are going to play out, if they're going to start feeling a little bit repetitive, and that's really the bread and butter of keeping a game like this for a very long time and being a very successful game. It's multiplayer, but also the main part of it isn't going into the Dark Zone and just killing each other, or at least I don't think it is, and so they're going to have to make sure that all of the missions are actually feeling somewhat different, somewhat fresh, they have cool set pieces, or just cool things that happen, and mostly it's just about making a game that it feels like you have so many other things to do, rather than just, do missions, go to the Dark Zone, get loot, because if you just finish all that stuff, you're going to be pretty bored, and I would be pretty upset if I finished all that in a week and just lost $60. So moving on to the AI, these could definitely use some more work. The animations for some of them is pretty broken, like it just kind of snaps into place when you walk up to them. Sometimes they're facing wrong directions, like there was a dog trying to bark at me and it was barking in the opposite direction, and that didn't really make sense. And then also some of the phrases and voices can get pretty repetitive. Like I said, I only played 2 hours and I had like 10 people yell like, "They're killing us," and also like, "They killed Jim," or like, I don't remember what they said, but it was one name and they repeated it like 6 times. So unless like 10 different people have the same guy named Jim that keeps getting killed, which honestly, you need to get a new guy if he keeps dying like that, they really just need to add a couple more catchphrases so they can say something different than "they're killing us" or something like that. So that just kind of gets repetitive and it feels like you're killing the same group of people over and over and over again. But anyways, moving on to the next thing, they tend to be pretty trash at combat. Like, that's understandable, AI aren't meant to be MLG Pro and just aimbotting you, but it gets kind of annoying when you're shooting at someone like 10 feet away and they're just kind of spraying, not even hitting you, and you feel like just a god, like you can't die, and it's kind of annoying. So also, I've had a couple of people who rush me with baseball bats, and honestly that makes sense. Like, if you don't have a gun and you have a bat, you could probably do some pretty decent damage, but then when they actually get to me, they just kind of stand there, and it's kind of funny because you just mow them down and they're like right within swinging range, so it's kind of silly. They could definitely use a tune-up on the AI. And finally, some of the voice acting for the characters is pretty bad. Like, there was one part where we were in a helicopter and this lady was like, "Oh man, our commander died. Darn." Like, it just really didn't seem like she was upset at all. She was just like, "Oh crap, that kind of bum. Oh well, we'll just keep going on." So it's definitely not something too important, but it is going to kind of hurt the story a little bit if the characters just don't sound like real people. And also, some of the characters doesn't seem like I should care for them at all. Like, if you want people to like your characters, you've got to make them either like help you out or do something epic. Like, maybe 3 guys rush you and you don't have a gun and they just come out of nowhere with nunchucks. Like, honestly, if some character did that, hands down, I'd be like, okay, we're ready. These characters are beast. We're going out there. But right now, they're in a helicopter. They got like bandages over their face and like, "Oh, that was hard. My leg hurts." Like, there's no bonding. So it does feel like they kind of just rushed out the story, which is kind of a bummer considering how emotional this game could be and how they really could get you attached to the characters, especially when they had a trailer that was probably one of the best game trailers I've ever seen in my life. If you guys haven't seen that one, I'll link it down in the description, but it set it up to be a really emotional game. You would be invested in the characters, you would be really upset when they died, but just based on what the beta had, I'm not so sure anymore. So that's pretty much it for my first impressions video. It was just under 10 minutes, so pretty good. If you guys did enjoy and you want to see more Division, be sure to hit that like button down below. If you have any questions you think I can answer, which probably, maybe, oh well, leave those down in the comment section down below and hopefully someone can answer them. And also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe as we do post just random videos daily. Sometimes Battlefield, Rainbow Six, The Division, it really just depends, but be sure to subscribe. And until next time guys, stay buttery.